सिविल्स मेंस एग्जामिनी जो हैं, कैसा चल रहा है आपका? चलिए, मेंस तो देना ही है. इट्स ऑल श्योर यू विल राइट द मेंस. You are doing every best to crack through means and to knock the doors of interview board and finally to get exit of the interview board with a sure success. And I am also running with you, though I don't have to take the exam. But it's a very, very tough task to me that I am not the examinee. But I try to catalyze the preparations of you smart boys and the girls. So I welcome you, and our analysis in this lecture is on Santhal uprising, Santhal rebellion, causes, happenings, and consequences. Just see. Santhals were the freedom lovers. They want to love freedom. And before 1857, so-called the India's War of Independence or War of Nationalism or war between blacks and white, 1857 revolt is left to discuss and analyze and arrive at some conclusion that what is the nature of 1857 revolt. Before this 1857 revolt, there were numerous important tribal revolt. One was the Santhal uprising and Santhal revolt from the Santhal, and the leaders were Sidhu and Kanu. So come to see what actually goes and have the analysis. Since the end of the Battle of Plassey in 1757, there were many armed uprisings among the tribal people in India against the British. Sidhu Kanu, Chand and Bheyo, 4 sons of Chulu Santhal of Bhagana Dihi village of Rajmahal district, provided impetus and then the leadership. After the rebellion was crushed by the British, the area inhabited by the Santhals was put under the direct control of the Governor General and named as Santhal Pargana, under the pretext of providing them a special concessions to Santhals. The area was declared an excluded area. Santhals started settling down in the foothills of Rajmahal in around 1780s. Santhals were given land and persuaded by local zamindars, money lenders, mahazans and sahukars, and British administration to settle down in a region and to push Pahariyas, so-called the local tribal group, out from the lower hills of Rajmahal. Santhals successfully pushed Pahariyas into a deep forest in Rajmahal hills and captured their lands. These Santhals slowly and steadily grown in population as well as land area and get settled in the region as farmers. Fine? Okay? So, just go by. See, the land on which Santhals were living was declared as Damini Ko, the land of Santhals. The population and area of Damini Ko was increased tremendously from 40 villages and 3,000 population in 1838 to 1473 villages with 82,000 population in 1851. Initially, Santhals were supporting to local jamindars. Also, they cooperated Mahajans, Saukars, and the Britishers too. Collectively called as Dikus or outsider by Santhals, but soon the situation started changing, and Santhals found that the land they have cleared and brought under the cultivation was slipping away from their hands. The state was levying heavy taxes. Heavy taxes were imposed on them, on those lands that the Santhals already created. Money lenders were charging them high rates of interest and taking over their land on failure of repayment. And jamindars were asserting control over the Damani area. Hence, Santhals found themselves trapped in a conspiracy by Dikus, so-called the outsiders. Now, there were regions, and come to the region. First one is the economic crisis. Santhals usually taken loan from so-called the jamindars, saukars, mahajans. For what? For planting their crops and for other purpose as well, right? At very high rate of interest. And in case now the Santhalis were failed to pay the amount, what happens? Okay, these mahajans and saukars and landlords used to capture their land. Okay, to capture the land area of Damini Ko region, right? And this way it has started decreasing. And in the process, British officers and police always supported saukars, mahajans, zamindars and landlords. Okay. Now, a forest policy brought by the Englishmen were using forest resources restricted the authority of Santhals over the forest resources, which created much resentment and disappointment among the Santhals. Santhals were forcibly used for a laying down of railway track between Bhagalpur and Vardhaman without any pay as a compensation amount. Second crisis is the religious front. The Charter Act of 1813 allowed Christian missionaries to propagate Christianity in India, and the Christianity missionaries were targeting these tribes in India and threatening the traditional beliefs and faith and code of conduct of Santhals as well. Third front to cause the rebellion or the uprising from the Santhals. It is a socio-political crisis or the cause. The traditional Maji system, remember the Maji system and Padha Panchayat system, If you take the exam of so-called Jharkhand Public Service Commission, it is there already. There is a section of the syllabus, and you will ask the question from there, and that is very important section. So just repeat. I am repeating again. The traditional Majhi system and Padha Panchayati system of Santhals, which involve group decision making and self decision at village level, both of these two systems were affected heavily by the policy of the Britishers or the British regulations. Fourth, come to the immediate causes that lead the fire of uprisings. Immediate causes. In the month of June 1855, in a minor incident of theft, many Santhal peoples were arrested by local police, by local police, and ruthlessly or with utmost cruelty, now those were beaten by the police. In response of this incident, the inspector of the police station was killed by a mob of Santhals. Next, follow the start and progress. On 30 June 1855, under the leadership of Sidhu and Kanu, remember, a group of 6,000 Santhals were gathered. Where? In Bhagindi, and took up traditional arms such as arrow and bows, Tirdanus, and vowed to establish Swaraj. Sidhu and Kanu promised new revenue policy and natural justice based on their traditional system of justice. To stir religious sentiments amongst the revolutionaries, he said that the god of Santhals, so-called Shibonga, remember the name, Shibonga, came into their dreams and ordered to fight against the Equis and establish Swaraj over Damini co-region. Now come to the uprising and what happened. During the uprising, Santhals were attacked on police and the British authorities. Besides this, they also looted and murdered Mahajans and Shahukars. In a short span of time, it spread all across the Damni co-region as well as Dhanbad, Bhagalpur, Shibhum, so-called Birbhum areas. The number of revolutionaries increased almost 10 times, from 6,000 to 10,000, a big number. Now come to the decline of the movement. Why the movement declined? Seeing the scale of the revolt, British authorities' administration immediately ordered for the martial law in Damini co-region. Okay? Major Baru was sent with 10 battalions of army to contain the revolt, and they remained unsuccessful in their attempt. After the failure of Major Baru and his battalions, British authorities and the administration sent a big unit of army under the leadership of Captain Alexander, remember the name, and Lieutenant Thompson to suppress the revolt. This time, they became successful to contain the revolt. During the process, more than 15,000 Santhals, including Sidhu and Kanu, were killed, and many were arrested. The revolt has finally declined and crushed. Now come to the consequences of the revolt, of the uprising, Santhal uprising. Number one, the administrative consequences. The region between the Bhagalpur and Rajmahal Hills in Singhu district were carved out and named as Santhal Pargana and declared as non-regulation district. Here are the consequences of the Santhal rebellion. Number two, it is illegal. Tenancy law, very important. Tenancy law was enacted in Santhal Pargana, which provided for village head and village officers who were entrusted with judicial and polishing powers. Third, social consequences. The traditional Majhi system once again became operational in the region. Now, significance or importance of the revolt in terms of aim, Santhal uprising was the first revolt which set its aim for attaining Swaraj or self-rule in Santhal region, which later became the aim of national movement as well. Now come something more to know. In terms of leadership, Sidhu Kanu performed very well. He touched and touched every aspect which influenced the movement and let it quickly spread in very wide spectra of region. Due to coverage of all aspects by the leaders of the revolt, the movement touched and touched as well every aspect of society, which resulted into huge cooperation among the revolutionaries and the leaders of the movement. Now, in terms of outcome, the revolt became partially successful and achieved some of its goals, despite of the fact that it could not able to achieve Swaraj, but it became somewhat successful as Santhal Pargana was declared as non-regulation district and gave a certain amount of autonomy at village level. Now, just to conclude, despite the Santhal rebellion or the uprising failed in achieving its aim of Swaraj, it influenced future tribal movements such as Birsa Munda movement as well as the National Freedom Struggle movement. Santhal uprising changed the thinking approach of weaker sections of the society who were earlier afraid of the Britishers and upper caste groups, now turned into more empowered and confident. Thanks for giving me a patience listening.